Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Vobes Show. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Lovely to have you with us on the 13th of November 2020 at 8 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, or winter time, or cold time, or actually it's quite mild time. But whatever time it is, it's our time, and it's very nice to be here. I may have put my voice, my volume up a little bit too loud. Now, it's the 13th of November. Some people say because it's Friday the 13th, that's an unlucky day. I want to know, have you had an unlucky day? What's your luck been like today? Or have you had a lucky day? What has it been like for you where you are? Let me know. I want to find out if you have had some good things or, conversely, bad things, or maybe you've had some good and some bad. It would be interesting to know. Either way, give us a little swingometer of your goodness and badness. And whilst you're thinking about that and getting ready to shove it up into the chat, it's very nice to see you. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you can during the show, if you like the show. You can, of course, subscribe. That's what the little subscribe button is. And press the bell notification so you get notified on the show. And if you enjoy the content and come to the Vobes Show frequently and the other stuff that I do, the Bald Explorer stuff and the live readings, you might want to consider helping me out and supporting the show with perhaps a couple of quid a month. You know, the price of a cup of coffee. Here we are, lovely cup here available, which happens to be the Veg Grower Podcast cup, not my own cup. My cups are available, of course, on the baldexplorer.com website. But this is lovely Richard Suggett, who we haven't seen for a while. But that's because he's incredibly very busy. Incredibly very busy. Yes, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Have you been to a tomb recently? Have you been in a graveyard? And have you looked about at the stones and often wondered who they are buried beneath them? What's their story? Often, walking about, I often think that's an interesting name, a curious name. What does it mean? Who is it? Why did they die? How did they die? What is their story? Who was left behind? Well, a new book that's been published has got all those things in it, and it's called, if I get it the correct way up, Tales from the Tombstone. And the two authors, Susan Ballinger and Pete Coombs, Pete, who is actually in the chat room tonight, have put this together after years, ladies and gentlemen, years of exploring graveyards and putting some stories and doing the research and taking the pictures together in a very fascinating and useful book. We'll have a talk about that. And maybe, you never know, Pete might give us a call in on the show a bit later on. Price of a phone call? All down to you. So there we go. So let's find out who is out there in the Vobosphere. Let's see. We've got Andy Stacey, Ernie Samick, Ed Loud, Kerry Baldwin, Peter Coombs, nice to see you, Darren Howell, Justine Jones, The Allotment Channel, Roy Ballinger, Kerry Baldwin, Marriott Genealogy, Ernie, Days of Yore, Wilf Meyer, nice to see you there, Wilf, thanks for the video. I should say that we have 4 delightful and completely different videos for us to have a look at. Josephine Souter is there, and Audrey Forbes Hamilton, Rick Gordon, Ron Langley, Linda Kane, I've said Ernie Samick several times, Michael White, Clive Waterfall, a lot of the usual crowd, which is lovely to see. Lovely Julia, of course. Finally, YouTube has let her get in. She's been struggling to get in onto the show, which is why she's a bit delayed. So don't take it out on her. Matt Dow and hard cheese, unlucky for Jack the Ripper. Yes, that's an interesting story, wasn't it? Jack the Ripper, 70, what was he, 71, 75, something like that, died of COVID apparently, or old age, or one of a number of things, who knows. Dead now, like his victims. And, well, thank God that's a turn paged, isn't it? Luckily, they didn't let him out. Never had an unlucky Friday the 13th, says Matt Dow, even though bought an extra lottery ticket. So did you win at the lottery? That's what I'd like to know. The Green Man says, I'm watching tonight, which is great, and I've just lost where it was. Where are you, Green Man? I've just moved the on the other side of the studio. Let me just show you for those people who aren't very familiar. On the other side of the studio, there's what the studio looks like here in this little home studio office. You can see that I've got the comments on the left-hand side, might be on your right. I can't remember how this works out. And sometimes they move about. Let's have a look. Tales from the Tomb says, True Tales from the Tomb says, hi, Richard. Hello to you. I don't know whether that is... Susan or somebody else. Where is the Green Man? I want to know. There he is. I'm watching tonight from the dark woods of Surrey. Oh, how lovely. What are you doing in the dark woods of Surrey? I'd be interested to know. We've got Elaine Whitelock and Ringer Ollie. Good evening to you, Ringer Ollie. We must do another video sometime. Sorry, the other ones didn't work out. Rasputin of Artington, evening. Nice to see you there, Rasputin. Robert Croser, nice to see you too. And Linda Kane, can't keep me out of churchyards, graveyards. Just call me a taphophile. A taphophile. Is that how it's pronounced? Taphophile. PH, is that a taphophile? Is that what it is? Taff? Are you going around taffing on the top of the tombs? Hello? Hello? I can imagine Susan and Peter going there, knocking on the tombs, going paper and pen handy, going, all right then, go on, give us your story. What happened to you? Fascinating stuff. Also, want to talk tonight, have you had a vegetarian dinner for a while? If not, why not? There's lots of nice vegetarian dinners you can have out there. Today, the lovely Julia and I were out filming, and Joe Suter sent us a message about a cauliflower. And I thought, oh yeah, what's special about this? Just so happened to be a purple cauliflower. Want to see what a purple cauliflower looks like? Well, Joe Suter's been selling them. Here we go. This is what a purple cauliflower looks like. That's an onion next to it and a box of matches. And it's actually on a breadboard on a table that looks like the floor, but it's actually a table. All right? So let's have no arguing. And that's what a cauliflower was. We went over to purchase this cauliflower, having heard about this purple little tree plantation. And I turned it into a cauliflower cheese this evening. And there is my cauliflower cheese, an unusual looking dish, I grant you. But I can tell you that with a Savoy cabbage on the side was delicious. Absolutely delicious. So that's my vegetarian meal. Now, you might think, but you're not strictly a vegetarian, Richard. And it would be true. I'm not strictly a vegetarian. So much so, we happened to stumble upon old Leon in the butcher at Suter's Butcher. Leon, you may remember, very trained in high karate. He wears the aftershave and everything, and women just pour in through the windows and through the drain pipes. But unfortunately for them, they do get slightly dismembered when he is swinging his axe about in the butcher's shop. Now, he is a generous soul because he gave to me, he said, have you ever tried any venison? I said, no, I never tried venison. That's not really my thing. He said, well, it's venison week the week after next, and we are promoting venison. So he gave me a whole lump of venison. And it was apparently it was killed only yesterday, and there it was. So I'm going to prepare on Monday a casserole with venison, and I'm going to try it. Now, I've never had venison ever. I'm going to cook that up over the weekend. We're going to marinate it into some red wine. And the lovely Julia and I, and Julia's also a bit nervous about this because neither of us have had venison. We're going to try it on the show live on Monday. So that's going to be interesting. We also have some venison sausages, which I shall cook prior to the show. I won't try and cook them live on the show again, but we will bring them out on the show and try those. Now, some people say it's an acquired taste. Some people like it straight away. Some people throw up in a bucket. I don't know which one I'm going to be, but it may be a disastrous show or it may be a very happy show. It's something for us to find out, really. So have you tried venison? What do you think of venison? I'm not so keen on game and partridge and pheasant and all those sort of things, but I've never tried it. I've shied away from it. Maybe I shouldn't. Have you tried venison? Would like to know. So there we are. There's some of the subjects in the Friday show on the Vobes show, and you're very welcome to take part. We are going to, first of all, start with a video of the day, just to get us going, and then we'll examine some of those things that we have spoken about, which will be great. Let's go to the video box and see who is lurking in there. And we're going to start with a bit of an eye test. Are you good at spotting things? Do you remember that game, I Spy?
I spy with my little eye something beginning with an invasion. Jawohl, mein Herr Kapitän!
Stop that. There's no need for all that cliche nonsense. Yes, we are going to start with a game of I Spy. Days of Yore has put together a little I Spy. Can you beat him? Can you see the object before he does? There we go. Days of Yore with his I Spy. Now, did you get all those? Did you manage to work it out? Who was who and which was which? Good for you. Well done. And did you notice there was an order of those first letters of each of those things? Anybody know what that spelt out? Was it random, or did it actually spell out a word or a sentence? I'll be interested to know if you managed to guess and get that. Put the comments down below if you did. That would be great. What a great idea. If anybody else wants to set something else up like that and send it in, then by all means do. I hope Days of Yore has not... what's the word I'm looking for? Copyrighted it or whatever. That was great stuff. And if you there's no prizes, of course, but I'd be interested to know if you did manage to work out what it spelt out. That was a little added bonus. Didn't mention it beforehand, obviously, because who knows? You would have just written it down, wouldn't you? And it wouldn't have been the fun. Nobody's got it so far, at least not as far as I've seen. Although Sean James Cameron has got the bingo ticket there. Michael White says, was it lockdown? No, it wasn't lockdown. So there we go. Fantastic. Brilliant stuff. That set the game off. I've just been looking at your comments, and some of you said, who was it? Somebody said, I think it was Audrey Forbes Hamilton, said that venison tastes like beef. Is that true? Only sweeter. Well, that's quite nice. That would be interesting. We will do that live on the show and see what we think. Gamey stuff, it doesn't appeal to me because when I was a young lad, I lived in Petworth, and I lodged for a while when I was 18 in a house with a lady and her husband, and the husband was a bit of a rural person. At the time, I wasn't really into the countryside of things. I'd been brought up in Horsham, edge of Horsham, like the countryside, used to run around on a farm and all those sort of things. But it was a derelict farm, pretty much, or it was just crops. And this chap, Tim, who lived there in the house, whose house it was, in the larder, they had this sort of larder, and they would have occasionally the odd rabbit or a pheasant hanging in there. And you'd go in to get some margarine or butter, didn't like margarine, or a nugget of cheese. And these bloody dead birds or a rabbit would be swinging there, with flies and things. I didn't eat any of that. In fact, that's when I went through a vegetarian stage, because all of that put me straight off. Seeing a dead rabbit hanging on a hook or a pheasant with a bit of string round it and coming through, put me off all of that gamey countryside stuff. And so I was very much into just having whatever came on a polystyrene cellophane wrapped thing where you didn't see the flies and all the horrible things, and you didn't have to think about it. And I think that's probably stayed with me for a long, long time. But I'd be interested if you've ever gone through a vegetarian phase. I'm not a vegetarian now, I like meat, but for a long, long time, I did just stick to basic vegetables. But those were the days, we're talking about the 1980s. Those were the days before vegetarian was a fancy thing. It was just a couple of potatoes, some carrots, and a bit of cabbage with gravy. I mentioned this yesterday, I think. And that's all I had. That's all right. That was good enough for me. I didn't mind. Don't have any meat. So there we go. What else have we got up here in the comments? Yes, Sean James Cameron said it spelled out the Vobes show. Well done. A lot of people have managed to work that out. Linda Kane also managed to sort it out. Edward Moulding says P silent in swimming. I'm not sure what that's all about. Ed Loud says, I'm a vegetarian in between meals and snacks and gelatine-based beverages. Fancy. Ostrich meat is like old boots, says Edward Moulding. The lovely Julia has had... Now, what was the thing that you said that you'd had? Not a billabong. You had something down in South Africa. I can't remember what you said it was. Something rather nice. Ed Ovett says, if memory serves me right, it was Vobes show. It was actually the Vobes show, but that's good enough. What would you have for dessert? Mousse? Ah, good one. Maybe a mousse. That would be something. We'll get 250 mice and you make a mousse. Is that the plural of mice? I don't think it is. So there we go. And Mark Donny McLeod says, hunting hoorays in pink was fun in the old days. Okay. And Julia says it was wildebeest or wildebeest or veldebeest or however you want to pronounce it. I'd like to know what a veldebeest or wildebeest or wildebeest or whatever it is looks like. Is it a two-headed thing with 20 arms and 16 legs? Who knows? Who cares? Now then, let's go and have a look at this. This is a book here. Tales. I got it the wrong way around here on the show. Tales from the Tombstones. I read this out on the live show, but forgive me for reading it out again because not everybody was on the live show. Churches and churchyards stand as a silent witness to many of life's events, such as births, marriages, and death. In times of war and peace, they silently watch as generation after generation passes by. But if you look a little closer, they will reveal their secrets to you. This book gives a brief history of those beautiful churches alongside some of the stories behind the grave. Have you ever wondered what the grave is? And this book, I'll show you on my special Booker Cam. I have a Booker Cam here. It's a highly technical sort of thing. If I just go into the Booker Cam mode, a few urgent press buttons going on. And there we are. We switched to the Booker Cam. And then we got Tales from the Tombstone. And you can see in here how the book is laid out with some lovely pictures with interesting details from different tombs, such as the graffiti. Now, I love a bit of graffiti on churches and things. And look at this, one of these inside the church here. I don't know which church this is. You will find an Armada chest. Sadly, it doesn't hold any of the Spanish treasure, having been locked for many years. In 2010, a locksmith was asked to open the chest, and inside was discovered legal and family documents from 1870s and 1880s relating to the farmer by the name of Jonathan Slater, who lived at Salford House, Mickleton, which is now the 3-star hotel. And there it is. Look at that. And you can see these things in churches. What about this? Victor Joseph de Martelleri, a well-mentioned grave. There's a better picture of it. Sorry. And with gargoyles or funny little carvings and this sort of stuff. Fascinating if you're into churches. Now, I should point out, he says, trying to switch the camera back as professionally as he can. These churches, this particular book is centred around churches in the following districts: Gloucester, Worcester, Warwickshire, Wiltshire, Somerset, Devon, Oxfordshire, Cornwall and Dorset. So unfortunately not Sussex or Hampshire or Kent or anything local to me. That said, though, I am hoping that next year with this COVID thing, by the way, COVID is all gone now. The pandemic is over. You've heard it first from me. It's official. It's official. It's over. Okay? We've all had enough of it. That's it. It's gone. Doesn't exist. You'll see. It'll all come out in the wash. Trust me on that. Once next year, and we get longer days in the spring, after the winter, and it starts to warm up a bit, I'm going to get in the Black Maria and I'm going to start travelling about and staying overnight in the Maria, occasionally at the odd Airbnb so I can empty the toilet in the Maria and actually have a shower and a shave. But otherwise, this scruffy little urchin that you see in front of you will be touring around. And I thought it would be quite fun to go and visit some of the places mentioned in this book and follow up some of the stories, or at least see if I can find the graves and tell you some of the stories that is in it. It's a fascinating book. If you'd like to check it out, you can. Tales from the Tombstone. It's on Amazon. You may have heard of them. They sell books. I think they sell other things as well. I'm not quite sure. They're an online retailer. Amazon.com, or if you're in the UK, it's .co.uk. And Tales from the Tombstone, it's by S. Ballinger and P. Coombs. So check it out on Amazon. And it's really nice. And they very kindly sent me this copy free gratis. Now, I don't know if Pete, who took the photographs and knows Susan, they work together on this, wants to give us a call and talk a little bit about the book. You'd be very welcome to give me a call on 079 467 Be very happy to hear from you. Plug your book a bit. And if you've got something to plug and you want to send me something free, then get in touch, richard@vobes.com. If you've got some unwanted £50 notes, they're very much in favour at the moment. Some unwanted £50 notes of current tendency. What is the word I'm looking for? Current money. There's a word I was looking for. What's the word? Current currency. There we are. Current currency. Do send them over, preferably in batches of 3 or 4. That's usually the best way. Sean James Cameron says, what will it say on your grave? There's a question for another show. What would you like to have on your epitaph? What would your epitaph be? What would you like other people to say about you? Richard Vobes, he was a lazy good-for-nothing, went on the internet and didn't have a proper job. It's probably what they'll say about me. Born entertainer, no doubt. That would be nice. The Green Man says, when I was a young country lad, we had ferrets and bags of nets. We have a phone call. Let's find out who that is calling in on the Vobe Show. Hello, how are you?
Hello, listeners. Hello, Vobesy. It's Ed Loud.
Hello, Ed Loud. How the devil are you?
Still round and squidgy.
Excellent. Well, we don't want you in any other way. So you're a vegetarian in between all the meat that you eat.
Yes, exactly.
Ah, yes, that's good. Good for you.
It's hard work.
I'm not at all surprised. It must be a time-consuming occupation.
Well, people scoff, but the other day, do you know, I went nearly 2 hours without consuming a piece of meat.
My goodness. Two long hours.
Do you know, in all seriousness, I barely ever eat meat anymore.
Why is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going back years now. When I used to weightlift, it was chicken breast and steak all the time, and I just got sick of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely got sick of it.
I can kind of go with that, you know. After a while, it's the same old stuff, isn't it? And you're trying to think, how else can I do that? And yet, there is a lot of other stuff out there, and you only need to go to like a proper butcher's, like Suitors in Pulborough, and they'll sell you all sorts of strange things, like Marmite and cheese sausages, which I have to say was delicious.
Yeah, it's amazing what Marmite goes with, actually.
Absolutely. Have you tried it with hummus?
Quite a lot. I haven't tried it with hummus. No,
that was a Glastonbury Gabriel one.
Well, do you know, I've just made some hummus about an hour ago, so I shall have to give that a go.
Yeah, I wouldn't ruin the whole lot of it, just in case you don't like it. But I actually enjoyed that. That was very nice.
Yeah. No, you were talking about if you've been to a graveyard or a tomb or something.
Yes.
And, I very recently, just before the lockdown, used a old tomb as an example to prove a point about local history.
Oh, yeah.
I find them really interesting places, and I was taking someone on a tour around my area, showing them bits of old history and stuff, and I said to them that where I live is in the Royal Borough of Greenwich, but it was once considered part of Woolwich. And they said, oh, but it's not in Woolwich, you don't live in Woolwich, you live in Eltham. And I said, well, now we're getting really technical because all these boundaries change all the time. So where I used to live was a different borough, which no longer exists. And when you walk around my area, you see lots of, like on gates to parks and things like that, you see the old flag of Woolwich, which is 3 cannons. Football fans will recognise it as basically the original Arsenal badge going back donkeys years ago before they adopted a single cannon. And so the closest place I could think of where there was proof that this was once part of Woolwich was in the graveyard near where I live, and it says, here lies, you know, whoever the poor chap was, here lies John Smith of Woolwich, Kent. Whereas now that would say Royal Borough of Greenwich, London.
Yes, yes. Well, it's sprawling. That's the trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's just it was a great sort of example of how London is spreading, and also how sort of the Royal Borough of Greenwich has absorbed what was the Borough of Woolwich, which bugs me sometimes, you know.
And
really bugs me.
did your compatriot, your friend, take that as proof?
Yeah, it wasn't sort of that they disbelieved me as such. It was just a jokey little debate. And yeah, we just had a bit of it led to a more serious discussion about how London is spreading, and also how, what was the borough of Woolwich is now forgotten and often mistreated by history, because Greenwich town centre sort of speaks for everything in my area now, and people think of Greenwich Mean Time and Greenwich Park and all these things.
Yes.
Yet there's so much history in what was Woolwich,
Yes, yes.
But yeah, that was just an interesting little tidbit that, a tomb helped me show somebody.
So there we are. And poor old John Smith, meanwhile, lay completely comatose and absolutely in ignorance of the fact that there you were above him arguing about where the boundaries lay. Yes.
But I do enjoy a good walk around graveyards and churchyards and things like that. There's lots of history, and they're also very peaceful places. I often find that the people who there never hurt me when they were alive, so they're certainly not going to hurt me now.
No, well, that's funny, because when I go into a lot of graves, I actually never knew most of them.
Yeah. The graveyard that's I live in a small block of flats, and opposite me there's some rather nice dandy houses, and behind them there's a graveyard, and me and my granddad used to walk to the top of the hill where this graveyard is, and you could see all of London. You could see St Paul's Cathedral, the London Eye, everything, and we used to love doing that. And then if we walk in the opposite direction to the top of Shooters Hill and go into the parks to the left of the hill, we could see into Kent, and you could see rolling fields. So we were in a really privileged location for views as far as London goes.
Yeah, and a great place to rest, if you're going to put somebody into the ground and to give them some great views. Well, I don't mean that quite literally, that, there they are 6 foot under and they're going, oh yes, lovely view of the worms here, isn't it? Well, what have you got over there, Basil?
Oh, I don't know. I think there's a cockroach coming through. And a vole and a mole. Oh, blimey.
But, when they're just before they get laid down there, they kind
even a nice place for the living to rest.
Yes, yes.
I can guarantee after pushing my granddad up Shooters Hill in a wheelchair, I jolly well needed a rest. So,
I want to ask you, why is it called Shooters Hill?
There's a lot of different reasons you'll hear from people. The oldest reason I can find is that back in the days when every Englishman of a certain age had to train in archery, they used to do a lot of shooting there. So,
Shooters Hill. Is there a place nearby called the Butts?
There is a place called the King's Butts.
There we are.
Children always find hilarious.
Yes. So, the Butts is the place where they used to do the target practice in the old days.
Yes, indeed.
And so Shooters Hill, if that's nearby, I think we've solved it, Ed. We've solved it. Fantastic.
It's a brilliant place to take. A lot of my friends now have got children and stuff, and we're often walking past this little tiny road, which is in the town of Eltham, and they're always saying, "Oh, was the king doing a moonie?"
No, yes. Little do they know, but soon, they will have the history shoved into their brains, and they might not actually.
Well, if I have anything to do with it, they will.
There we are. Exactly. They'll understand.
Anyway, I'd better go and let someone else call in.
Yes, indeed. It's been lovely.
Looking forward to the rest of the show.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry you're watching on Lego Vision.
Great. Take care, Richard.
Take care. All the best. Bye-bye. There we go. That's Ed Loud telling us about how you can use the gravestones as a boundary marker, which is fascinating, really, because old boundaries often would be marked on stones. So there we are. Fascinating stuff. We have another phone call immediately straight on after that. Let's find out who that is. Hello. Hello. Who's that?
Susan Ballinger.
Hello, Susan. Susan
Hello.
Ballinger, international author.
Not quite, but...
I keep getting your book the wrong way round for the camera, which is a little irritating for the viewer. But yes, what a brilliant book. So tell me, what was the inspiration for this?
Well, it was a number of things. We were doing a voluntary project where we were going around graveyards, photographing and indexing graves.
Right.
They prefer basically to go on a database for people to go on check out to see if their ancestors were on there.
Yes, because there's a huge interest, isn't there? People, I mean, for the last, 20 years, people have been absolutely fascinated, and the internet has really facilitated the ability for people to fill in their family tree.
Yeah. So basically, we started off like this, and while we go around, we started discovering interesting names on the stones.
Yes. Go on, tell us an interesting and unusual name, because they used to have some amazing names back in the day.
Well, we haven't really come across really unusual names or anything, because I think it's maybe because we're down the south. I'm not sure, but we just really more come across interesting stories.
Right. Okay.
More than anything else. So we started talking to a friend of ours who happened to be an author, and she said, "Well, why don't you put the stories into a book?" So basically, that's where it came from, really.
And so, how do you go about finding that? You mean, there you are in a graveyard, and there's some interesting graves, and I'm guessing if it was me, you'd see a feature and you think, "Wow, that's interesting. That's a bit unusual. That's a bit different." How do you go about finding out about somebody who was perhaps buried in the 18th century?
You just go onto like the National Archives, family tree sites, and you just stick the name in basically, and you go from there.
Right.
But,
okay. So you're not having to go into the public records office and sit there for hours on end, going through empty boxes and looking for clues and this. It's a little bit more easier than that, is it?
It is, as long as you know you're on the right track. I mean, it can take days and days of research, because you need to make sure you're looking at the right person. You got to go through the news, because we obviously look for newspaper reports as well. So we go through newspaper reports, we go through archives, and then whatever, family trees, just to make so it's about 4.5 years worth of work that book.
Oh gosh, I can imagine. I mean, I'm just looking at, I've totally opened this at random, and there you've got a record, I guess this is a log of some description. I'm not quite sure what it is. But that sometimes when you're looking at these records that are handwritten, it must be very difficult because they're not always very legible.
Well, this is why Pete decides that I do the research, because he's not very good at looking at little things like that. He hasn't got a lot of patience, to be honest.
Well, I was going to say, there must be, I mean, like anything, like any person who perfects what they do, you get an eye for how somebody writes a letter in a slightly different way, and you go, oh, that's definitely a P, not a G, and those I'm assuming.
Yeah, you just really got to. No, you can to an extent, so you don't blur it. You've got to blow it up to a certain size, and then if you keep looking at it long enough, you realise what the record says. It's just a matter of really sort of concentrating hard on the record to get the right information out of it.
I like that you've put in also the newspaper cuttings that go along with one. I've just got here, murder of a policeman, it says. On Saturday night, a Devon country constable named Walter Kretsch was murdered by George, slightly blurred there, George somebody or other, a village... that's a town. Sorry, Georgeham, I think it is, a village near Barnstaple, by George Green, an old man aged 70. And then it goes on about it, and I think that's great because it really just gives you, a little bit of context, and there it is in a newspaper.
Georgeham's actually interesting because there's more than one story in that graveyard. They've got bodies of shipwrecked, the victims.
Oh, right, okay.
A little boy that was drowned, he was on holiday from London.
Oh, that's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, he was trying to rescue two of his friends, so all three of them are buried together. And there's an author buried there as well. As I said, it's fascinating when you go, amazing what you can find.
Absolutely, and the different types of stories. I mean, there you are saying, there's a shipwreck. You don't, that's something that you don't always think of when you go into a graveyard. Is there a shipwreck victim or victims? Because you just think, well, it's just usually local families and things, but they could be also, plague victims and those sort of things. What about those people who they always say that the murderers and robbers and the nasty people are buried at the north of a church. Did you find that?
I haven't actually come across. I've come across victims, but I haven't. This time in this book, I haven't actually come across any murderers buried in churchyards.
Oh, maybe they weren't buried. It may be because it's consecrated ground. I know Linda Kane will know all about this. Maybe if they've been tried and they're, they are actually found as a murderer, and what have you, they've either been hanged or buried in the grounds of the prison, presumably. Fascinating stuff, though, and 4 years of hard work. You're very dedicated, Susan.
Well, if we're going to do it, I'm going to do it properly.
Yes. So have you got thoughts about doing another one?
We've got another book out we've just released, actually, but this one's just set in one cemetery in Cheltenham, Gloucestershire.
Wow. Okay. So that's in even more in depth. So this book sort of whets people's appetite, doesn't it?
The second one actually took me less time because I was originally from Cheltenham.
Oh, right.
So,
okay.
So I knew a lot about the cemetery anyway, and it was just a matter of putting all the work together, and it actually took about 12 months to do that one, so...
You obviously spend a lot of time in churchyards. How does that go down with your friends?
Well, Pete, he just comes along, he doesn't care, brings his camera along, and he's quite happy.
You've got some fantastic... I'm just looking here, another one at random, because it's not just about tombs, but you've got things like here is a lot of graffiti around the outside wall. The photo below is of a sundial that we believe was dated 1880 or 1889. And there's a lot of graffiti on churches, isn't it? I love that. People say, oh, graffiti is such a bad thing. And I think it is when they spray with cans in the modern era, but when you walk into old places and somebody's carved their name or put their initials and then a date like 1752, there's something a bit, I don't know, you've come face to face almost, except for time, with somebody who was took the time to do it.
It really is fascinating. I mean, I could have spent hours in some of the churches we visited just looking at, dates and initials, and it just really is fascinating. We've got, there's photos we haven't put in the book. We've got hundreds of photos.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting because a lot of people just dismiss churches as just old relics that are out of date and of no consequence, and because people may not be religious, but you don't need to be religious to appreciate not only the architecture of the church, but it was the hub of the town or the village, wasn't it? As you say on the back of your book here, births, marriages, and death, and also places where people have probably gone after loved ones have been in and sit and contemplated, perhaps read books, written poems, all sorts of things would have happened in a churchyard, not just the religious faith.
No, it's just to say, we just think they're fascinating places. I mean, we've visited over 100, 104 now. I think it's about that, what we visited now. And each one is unique and different.
Yes, absolutely. And did you find there's something that was fascinating to me? I heard on a very old Radio 4 programme about nature, and they were playing one from the 70s or something, and they were talking about churchyards and saying churchyards are such an amazing haven for wild flowers because the ground has never been ploughed up. And so it's a kind of a snapshot of what the local area might well have had in huge numbers, but within the walled parameters of the churchyard.
Some of the churches we've visited ourselves have been actually turned over to wildlife and
wildflower meadows and things like that.
Yeah. They don't get touched no more. The grass has grown long, and all the flowers are allowed to grow up, and
yes, and species rich, which you're not finding in the landscape nearby because they're just protected because we've not ploughed them up and planted perennial ryegrass and things like that.
Well, you have to be careful. I mean, Pete has fallen in holes that he hasn't realised are there, and
has he?
Yes, poor man. He seemed to find the holes, and I seemed to find the insects because I had a rather nasty incident with a bumblebee. I think it was a bee or a wasp stung me on the ankle.
Wow.
Well, well, I was looking at one of the graves, so my ankle swelled up. Didn't have a first aid kit or nothing, so middle of nowhere. So that was a bit of a problem.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, who knows what's in? No hands mysteriously coming out of the churchyard. Are you?
No good.
Are you easily spooked?
I wouldn't say so. No.
No. So would you go to a churchyard at night time with a torch and do a vigil or anything? Or sleep in a church, because they do that. Julia and I were thinking of going on one of these where you rent the church out for a night and you sort of lie in the church and sleep there. I think it's a thing. It's a thing. It's not something.
No. We saw that ourselves about having holidays in. You can sleep in it, because we were thinking about it ourselves. Funny enough, about doing it one time.
Oh right, yeah. Well, it's a fascinating book that you've put together, and thank you so much for sending it to me. And as I say, I'm very much looking forward to, in the new year, when it's warmer and we've got longer days and I can travel further afield and we don't have all the COVID problems, to going to some of the churches mentioned in your book and having a little gander myself, and perhaps just picking out a couple of the stories and presenting them. And of course, I'll plug your book.
Oh, well, thank you anyway. It's been nice talking to you.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's only available at the moment on Amazon. Is that right?
Yeah, we just trying to find different ways of publishing it, because it's independently published, so we have to do all the work ourselves.
Oh, so. I know. I did write some children's books and tried that same old thing. It's hard work. It is hard work, isn't it? But well,
be dedicated to do it.
You certainly do. Well done, and thank you so much. And if any of my lovely viewers and listeners would like to get hold of it, it's very easy to find. Presumably, just type in "Tales from the Tombstone," and the book looks like that, and you'll find it on Amazon. And go and buy it. That's what we say.
Well, thank you very much. Anyway,
it's a pleasure. And thanks for calling in and telling us all about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye, Susan.
Bye.
Bye. There we go. That was the very lovely... Oh, I can't turn the... There we are. Lovely Susan Ballinger, and Pete Coombs was the photographer, and that's the book, Tales from the Tombstone. What an interesting thing that was. Lots of comments out there. Thank you for going and typing those out. But we haven't got time for the moment to look at those, because we've got to go... And it's time to hear from... Oh, there's another phone call. Hang on. I have to get to the phones, because otherwise I don't know what to do. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, Richard. My name's Lance.
Hello, Lance. Lovely to hear from you.
Yeah, I've been following you from my friend that sort of has been watching you for a long time, and he said, "You've got to watch this guy." And
I'm very pleased. Thank you very much. What a nice man you are.
Yeah, we've been watching all the time. And we too like going on walks, countryside, churchyards. We like looking at trees and fences and things like that. And we've been to some places that you've been to. You went to Itchingfield, is that right?
Itchingfield, yes, that's right. Yeah, I did a longer video there, and I also went with a chap called Darren, who has, I don't know, about 108 relatives, not recent ones, but through time, buried in the churchyard there.
No.
Yeah, apparently.
Wow.
I mean, going back sort of 300-400 years, and I think he claims that he can trace his family back pretty much towards the Doomsday period. But obviously records start to peter out. But yeah, amazing.
Talking about Doomsday, you know when you and Julia visited the Sun Oak tree on the Hammer Pond Road?
Yes.
Big amazing tree. Did you two visit the Doomsday Church on that road?
No.
Oh, it's only about 200 yards away.
Oh, is it? Is that the one up near Horsham? We're talking about the Sun Oak tree near on the corner of St Leonard's Forest. Is that where near Monk's Gateway? Is it near Monk's Gate? Is that the one?
Monk's Gate. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, you pass Horsham Rugby Club. It's pretty much opposite there.
Yeah, I mean, it's close to the. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the same sort of place. Yes, yeah. There isn't another Sun Oak. I mean, there probably is, but I just wanted to make sure. So the what's the name of the church?
Doomsday Church.
Doomsday Church.
That's well old, yeah.
Is it? Well old. It's well old, mate. Got to go in that one.
Go there. It creeps me out. Oh, I heard stories when I was young, and it got into my head, and I just can't
go there. Oh,
Silly,
right.
Really.
I wonder what, because that's an area that's full of the ponds, the hammer ponds, and would have, and I guess an old church would have served the forgers and the iron rights and people like that back in the day.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
and of
further
course,
on down, there's Slapham. Is it a village called Slapham? Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I can't. I think I've either been through it or past it or seen a sign of it.
That's a great church. Yeah.
There's certainly a lot of them about.
Question,
yes,
Richard.
go for it.
Don't mind me asking.
No, not at all.
You're going up and down the country, and you got a van recently. Are you going to think about going abroad, or was that maybe in a few years' time on the horizon? That's all?
Yeah, mate. Funny thing about going abroad for me, I know I've got friends and they always go, "Oh, Richard, we're going on holiday, we're going abroad," and I always think, but there's so much to see in this country, and the trouble with me doing the things like the Bald Explorer and interest in heritage, landscape and nature is I really need to know something, just a smattering about the place or an understanding, whereas I can understand the Englishman and a little bit of the English history I've sort of managed to get a grip on. So when I go somewhere I can appreciate, oh, that's a Georgian house or that's a Tudor cottage or whatever it is. When going abroad, and I have been abroad, and you go to like a German chateau or something, I know I can be staggered by the architecture and think, wow, that's amazing. But I don't know enough about the history.
Okay.
And so it's like, to me, it's like going to a museum, and you go into a museum and you go past perhaps all the Neolithic stonework and you go, oh yeah, that's interesting. Wow, look at that. And as you keep going, you start getting a bit overload and you go, oh, it's another bloody stone, isn't it? Yeah, it's just another carved flint, that some old geezer chopped something with, or there's a bit of an old thing. And I start to then not appreciate it because for me, I need to understand a little bit. If you're going up a Moorish castle in Portugal, it's not the same as if I was walking along Hadrian's Wall, because I can understand more about the history of Scotland and England and the Romans putting it up there. But where would you go? Would you prefer to go abroad?
I don't know. My friend Ian, he loves going abroad. He loves travelling. He's done Budapest. He's done Prague. He wants to do Romania. He's done Poland. He's done Turkey. He just wants to do all that sort of stuff.
Is he just ticking them off a list of, is it like a bucket list?
I suppose, yeah.
Because I mean,
written the list out, but
yeah, no, I know. No, it's just that when you said he's done this and he's done that and done the other. I mean, you think you could go to Budapest and you could probably spend a couple of years there and absorb and still not really understand the nature of the culture and the people. You just get a smattering of it.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. But he does like nature. He does like the countryside, and he's grown up a bit in the country. He does like that.
Yeah.
Eastern European. He does like Eastern European sort of countries and that old history and that. He loves all that, yeah. But then he likes this country. There's plenty of history in this country.
Yeah.
You don't have to go abroad, do you?
No. Well, I'm just talking about my personal. I mean, obviously, there's people with their own wanderlust, and they love going abroad. There's that sense of adventure. I think I'm probably a bit too much of a wimp. I do actually like to sort of think, well, I know I'm safe here, and although not always, if you go down into the town centre at 10 o'clock at night when all the pubs are filling up and you hear all the shouts and things, you think, actually, just get me out into the countryside under a nice oak tree where nobody will be. But so you like travelling around. Where would be your one recommended place that you would send somebody if they'd come from another country, and instead of going to the all the usual Stonehenges and places in London and all that, where would you take somebody if you had a foreigner?
I'm a Horsham boy, so I haven't really been much out of Horsham, to be honest. So,
are you a Forest Boys? Are you a Forest Boys?
Yes.
Are you?
When you done that story about Mr. Williams, I don't need to say the nickname.
No.
I had a story as well, and I understood exactly what you were talking about.
That rumor went round, didn't it? I mean, who knows whether it's true or not? But it was certainly the thing that everybody said about him. But who knows if he's still alive? Poor bugger.
Yes, who knows? Yeah, I don't know what I'd recommend really. I just like villages. just like nice village church, little footpath walking through woods. I think you and Julia went through St Leonard's Forest.
Yes,
In Horsham.
up there on what's his name's mile? What's he called? That where the bloke had a race with the devil, didn't he? Something's mile. I forget what it's called now off the top of my head. And of course, all the dragon stories about the dragons in St Leonard's Forest.
All right.
And then the gates around the forest, like Colgate and Monk's Gate. They were all
Colgate, yeah.
Colgate, Polgate. They were all entrances, not Polgate. That's down south. But they were the old entrances to the forest, apparently.
Right.
Hence the word. But don't. Linda Kane will probably correct me in a minute. And others. I'm just using Linda Kane because I know she's a very clever person. It's how wonderful to. What did you say your name was?
My name is Lance.
Lance,
and,
yes, that's right.
Ian's a follower of yours, and I'll tell you what. Before you go,
yeah.
I looked on you on Instagram, and I tell you, you're good at drawing, aren't you?
Oh, I wish I was. You're
good.
I haven't done any drawing for years. I was trying to illustrate my children's books, and I did go to people to see if they would do it, and I just thought, it costs so much money, and I wanted to illustrate more and more, and I gave it a whirl, but I wouldn't say it. I knew when I wasn't very good.
Ian, my mate Ian, he's very good, and he says you're good, and he's got me into it, and I enjoy doing it. It's therapeutic. He's a fisherman, and he likes to sit and fish, and again, that's therapeutic. Nice lake, nice view.
Well, I think if you can combine the two, you're fishing and doodling drawing at the same time. What a brilliant thing, because you're keeping your mind occupied.
Yes, we are doodlers, yeah. One more thing,
yes.
Carfax in Horsham.
Yes.
You gave me a bit of history there, with when you said West Street, South Street, East Street. I didn't know. Is it something about why they call it the Carfax? Something you said, and more entrances or something.
Yes, you put me right on the spot there. It's an old car folks or something. And I think it means something like 6 entrances, if I remember rightly. And there's one in Oxford. They have a Carfax in Oxford, and I think they're the only 2. Although I think there's a more recent one somewhere else, but I don't think that's really a contender.
I didn't realise that the old post office was a jail. You said that.
Yeah, the site that there was 3. There was Jail Green, there where they used to hang people in the Carfax. One was up on where North Street comes in. Now, because people watching this, if you don't know Horsham, obviously this is going straight over their head. And then it moved along to where the post office was, and then there was the one up near the Iron Bridge, near the Queen's Inn or Queen's Hotel or Queen's whatever it is.
Yeah, there's little lockups there. I used to sell flowers there, I remember when I was a kid.
Did you? Oh, how lovely.
And these little lockups.
And then Barcelot Road was the police station.
That's right, yeah. They're flats now.
Where George John Haigh, the acid bath murderer, was held.
There you go.
Yeah. And
so where's the beautiful Julia then? Where is she then?
She's where the beautiful Julia? Julia! No, she's at home. She's at home. She's at her home, but she'll be here on Monday.
Oh, okay.
So
she puts a smile on my face.
Yes, she puts a smile on a lot of people's faces. And she doesn't charge for it either, which is very nice. Bless her little cotton wool and socks. So anyway, Lance, it's been absolutely lovely. Yeah. I better move on because I've got 3 videos to show. And but it's been absolutely wonderful to talk to you. Thank you for ringing in, and do ring in again.
Will do so. Look after yourself.
Yeah, and you. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There we go. That was the lovely Lance ringing in from Horsham with some interesting stuff about Horsham and places to go. Always lovely to hear from new callers, so thank you so much for that. We will go into the video box. Wilf Meyer has been looking at faces in the woods. Not the sort of faces that you would expect. This is absolutely fascinating.
Hello, Wilf here. Here are some images from a photo project I've been working on. I live near a mountain that was extensively logged in the 1930s and 40s, and the method they used to cut down the trees left behind some very interesting reminders of that time.
How about that? How interesting. I just love that first picture with the guys, you know, from time immemorial, from the Victorian period, I assume, with the axes in the side of the tree, in the trunk, and they're standing on each side like that. The guy is prone across horizontally, and there they are doing this on their axes. Amazing. And those were the marks that we saw, presumably, to make up those faces. Not deliberately, I assume, but over time. How interesting. How amazing. Thank you so much, Will, for sending that in. I think that's very, very beautiful. So there you are. How about that? That's just wonderful. Just wonderful. It's 9 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. I have 2 more videos to play in before we go. So I'm going to go straight to those, if that's all right. We have Richard McGowan, who has... let me just remind myself. Oh, yes. On the show, something happened that reminded Rick of a place nearby. I wonder what it was.
I was reminded of this local landmark when I saw the video showing the vent pipes for the sewers in London. It's called the Candlestick Chimney, and although much grander and larger, serves much the same purpose, inasmuch as it vents methane gas out of the ground, in this case from the mines, of which there were several along this short stretch of coastline. They were sunk in the 1800s and extend out under the Irish Sea, the last of which was closed in the mid-1980s. The chimney is supposedly based on the design of a candle holder in the residence of a wealthy local landowner, who would also have owned the mines. No poured concrete here. This chimney was built from manually dressed stone blocks, and typical of the day, was as grand as it was functional. The candlestick took dangerous gases out, but this almost castle-like building housed a steam-powered fan which ducted fresh air in for the miners way below the surface, mainly used as a roost for the local pigeons these days. There would have been some nice sounds of the pigeons cooing and the gulls overhead, but I forgot to put the audio on the camera, so there you go. Here's the housing and the support where the large fan was mounted, and there's the bottom bearing still in its place. Stalactites are formed by the minerals in the stonework after years of water filtering through. The hill there with the turbines behind is actually what was left of a spoil heap from one of the mines which closed in the 1970s, which I remember, as my granddad worked there, and I remember the saddle tank steam engines which pulled the coal trucks away from it. The mines claimed many lives, including that of young children. This memorial plaque is to those who died helping to power the Industrial Revolution.
Industrial history, fascinating stuff. And thank you so much, Richard. That's so interesting. And, you know, we've gone from tombstones in today's show to memorials of things and industrial archaeology. Amazing to think that Britain, I mean, this is one reason, I suppose, that I don't need to go abroad, because there's so much history in this country. And we were at one time world leaders on things like the Industrial Revolution and the, you know, that brought about all that archaeology of industrial England, that you could just spend ages following all the different stories and the progression that we've had. Absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for doing that and putting that together. Amazing place. And it just goes to show, you know, you wander across the countryside and suddenly there you are, you see this great big, what looks like a chimney or a candlestick. And of course, there's a story attached to it. And it makes you inquisitive. And that's what I love. We've got a lot of inquisitive people out there on the show. Thank you so much. So there we go. That was that. Let's have a look at some of the comments before we go to our final video. Ed Loud says, what a wonderful accent. Love this video and voiceover. Richard, you've obviously got to do more. We want to see more. Kerry Baldwin says, this is interesting. I find industrial history fascinating. Absolutely couldn't agree more. Mark Donny McLeod says, by heck, lad, does he see thy young Robert Croser that's near thee? Aye, is he? Jeff Kellerson, hello to you, Jeff. He says, he's talking to Linda Kane, but Jeff, I've seen Jeff's name come up a few times, and he was talking about, the Racton Folly. Yes, I did make a video at the Racton Folly many years ago, in about 2007. I do need to go back and maybe take the drone, although I think they've fenced it off a bit more in recent years. The Racton Folly is down in Hampshire, isn't it? It's down near Lavant Way, Rowland's Castle Way, if I remember. Stanford Place, Stanmore House Gardens. Can't remember exactly. Anyway, very interesting. We've got lots of applauses and thumbs up for your video, Richard. Thank you very much. Fantastic. That's really good. 7 minutes past 9 as we go. And we will just finish off. Adrian from TurboStream has been out and about. What have you been doing? I just can't remember now. Where are you? Oh, yes. Up on the Clent Hills. Every time I see the word, because I've used to deal with clients, I keep thinking there's an I missing, as in Client Hills. It's Clent Hills. Up on the Clent Hills. Now I'm having to guess there. Is that Worcestershire where you are? Where the Four Stones are. The Four Stones. He's been up there to have a look at the views and take some pictures and some video and give us a view of the hills. And it's interesting because we walked nearby there when I went to see him a couple of weeks ago after buying my van. And he pointed out some of the hills that we'll see. And I thought, hey, yeah, I'm beginning to recognise the hills. So clearly, Adrian, I've got to come back again in the spring, in the new year, and we've got to go hill walking and explore some of those up in your area. That would be fantastic. Meanwhile, let's have a watch of your vid. And what a lovely van to go back to. Absolutely amazing. Terrific views. And Adrian just reminded me there in the chat that the Four Stones was next to Walton Hill, where where he took me a couple of weeks ago, which was fantastic. Yeah, very, very much like that. And as you say, there's so many places, isn't there? There's just so many places to go and explore and have a look at. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Adrian. Looking forward to more of your videos. And thank you to everybody who sent in a video. I noticed there was a question there about me doing some lives over the weekend. I won't be doing any lives over the weekend. I did think that the reading show would go over the weekend because I thought that possibly tomorrow we could finish the book that we've been reading, which is Lift Luck on Southern Roads by Tickner Edwards. But there's probably 2 more readings to get out of that. So I'm going to leave that till Monday and Tuesday probably. And then we'll start another book, which we've got lined up, which would be good. So that's that. And also the other thing was, am I going to carry on doing Vobes shows every day next week? Well, I'm going to take next week back to Monday, Wednesday and Friday. I found this week quite problematic, or not so much problematic, but very tiring, because I'm out in the morning going and filming something. I come back, by the time either I'm back straight away or I've dropped Julia off and then come back and then edited it. I've got to get that all edited and uploaded and sorted by 4 o'clock, and then I do my reading show, and then that finishes, and then there's a little bit of stuff that I do and light the essay and get some food in me and what have you, and then there's the 8 o'clock show. And I found that harder this time during lockdown than last time. During lockdown last time, it was easier because we were so locked down. Was forced to walk around Worthing or get on my bike or something, and I could have done and got all of that done by sort of 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And then so I actually had time to sit on my step outside the front of the house and read a book. This week, I've not had any time. It's just been full on from 6 in the morning when I usually get up and start doing things until 10 o'clock at night when I go to bed. So I've been a bit knackered. Let's find out who's called in at the end. Hello, welcome to the show.
Just a very quick call. Sean from London.
Sean from London. Hello, Sean.
I just wanted to say on behalf of everybody, thanks for your commitment to all the shows and everything. It's quite hard to do it every single day.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Sean.
I think that you deserve some time off.
Well, I'm going to take the weekend off, although, of course, I'll probably make a video because I'll need something for Monday. And then I'm going to go back to the Monday, Wednesday and Friday. So at least what that means is I have a respite on Tuesday evenings and Wednesday.
What I found this week, to be honest, is I think somebody needs to schedule YouTube this week. It's so many channels that I follow have all done a live at 7:30, at 8 o'clock, at 9. I've been more stressed trying to catch everybody's video this week than I have with...
Yes, I know what you mean. It is very...
Because I was watching last night's show at about 1:45 this morning.
Oh, blimey.
And it was frustrating because it was about YouTube and stuff that I would have liked a conversation. And I was like, right, I need to catch the shows.
Do you think, here's a question then, do you think, because the first lockdown took a lot of YouTubers by surprise, and they hadn't really worked out what they were going to do because they were locked down. It was a bit of a panic, and those that could get out couldn't get out, and then slowly the sort of people were getting, we could do lives, and that was, for a lot of people who weren't already doing it, a bit of a challenge to get going. Do you think that on the second lockdown they thought, we've got this, we'll just keep doing lives, and of course, as you say...
Well, the first time round, it was only the really savvy people that did the lives, while everybody else was still a bit awestruck with what was going on.
Yes.
This time,
we're all on the bandwagon.
This time, even before, because I was sort of hoping the lockdown didn't happen just to catch everybody out.
Oh right, yes.
Because they started the lockdown 4 days before it actually started this time around.
Uh-huh.
It's like everybody's putting up videos every day, and they're videos of like a man going into a polytunnel to open the polytunnel, and going, oh, well, it's cold in here, you know. Right, I'm just going to sweep up, and they're not actually saying anything.
Right. Yes. I suppose that they're learning their
making
craft, as it
videos
were.
for the sake of just making videos.
Yes. Yes. Well, I think the fear is that lockdown for a lot of people was, we're going to lose our audience because we're not able to produce content. So the second lockdown, I guess people have overcompensated. And that's actually, I'm thinking, well, do I really need to do this every day? I did it every day on the first lockdown, right from day one. As soon as we were back, Julia and I were away on the Monday. And that night, Boris said, we're locking down. We came back the following day. And from that point, for whatever it was, 6 weeks, I can't believe that I did that for 6 weeks, every day, including Saturday and Sunday. But
this is the difference. You did it because you wanted to entertain people.
Yes, I just thought, well, what are we going to do? I've got to entertain
people,
myself as well.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially in the gardening community, a lot of people are seeing it as I missed out on a lot of money because people are sat in the house, they're bored, so let's just pump out the videos.
Yes.
So I think they've come to it from a completely line my pockets because you're all sat in the house, rather than I'm doing it just because I'm concerned that people aren't going to see anybody.
Yes. Well, exactly. I mean, I just, it just seemed to me the most obvious thing in the world was that there's so much more time. Let's do something. And it was a learning curve for me. But actually, on this occasion, because I don't have to just walk around Worthing, and also I'd be repeating myself ad nauseum if I did.
Yeah.
And we are allowed to pick somebody who can be a person outside our family or our house unit. And so I sort of went, right, okay, well, that's easy. Julia, because then she can do the shows on the Monday and we can do the walks. And, it stops her from going potty by being stuck inside. And we've got the van and we've got to do it. And so we've done it. But I don't think I actually need to I don't think on this occasion I need to do it every day because I'm finding myself being run ragged because of the extra mileage and, put in the
Yes,
video.
because you don't want to come out of the lockdown more exhausted than everybody
No,
else.
that's right. Because as soon as lockdown finishes and we can go further afield and I can stay overnight, well, staying overnight in the van in the middle of winter is just probably not really much fun anyway. But if I wanted to get up really early and go somewhere and have breakfast in the van and catch an early morning, like going to Hastings or somewhere, and then, being on the beach at 7 in the morning.
Don't forget, though, you've got a back catalogue that goes on for years and years and years. You could quite easily just sit down and just introduce something
I could do.
that people, because this is one of my frustrations, is people don't search. They watch what creators put up,
yes,
but they don't search back through videos from 3 or 4 years ago. So you could do like a small series of
places I've been to.
My favourite highlights of the last 3 years.
Yes, and I guess if the weather deteriorates and I'm really stuck, that's what I always think is, well, that's my last resort. I could just sit here and say, here's some highlights from a walk I did, 25 years ago. Well, it's not that long,
because
obviously.
I was thinking about you the other day, in fact, and I sort of thought to myself, I don't know how much longer you can do the Vobes show every single night, because you pulled out of the can the last time all the things that would be good to pull out of the can, but you've already done it, like the story of your life and stories about being on the stage. So
It's true. That is true. But I do think, and I firmly believe this, the more you are cornered, the more creative you become. And so you do all the obvious things first of all. But if this lockdown went on and on and on, I like that challenge of that's why I do a daily video, because I like I've got to do something. I've got to do something. Sometimes they're rubbish, and I know that. Sometimes they're okay.
I don't know how on earth did it, because since I've had this new camera, which is just easy, point and shoot, and you're gone. I thought to myself, let's see if I can do something every day to take advantage of the fact that people are just sat in the house.
Yes.
Well, by the fourth day, I was like, can't be arsed with this. I was exhausted.
You've got to have drive and motivation. I don't know what it is in me, but I don't have a chauffeur. So I have to drive myself, and I just feel, every morning I leap out. Well, I don't always leap out of bed, but I get out of bed, and it's like, right, we're going to do something. And I don't know why I have that, but I couldn't do it without. Anyway, less about me. Thank you for your nice comments. That's very kind of you.
That's all right.
And and you did you? The question I wanted to ask you was, did you go and film the protest?
It's on Monday.
Oh, it's on Monday. Okay, so we got something to look forward to. And you're going to send a thing in on Monday or Tuesday or whenever.
I'll send it in on Monday. I've spoken to the people who are protesting, and they seem very sort of like, well, we don't know what day it's going to happen, so we'll just go up there when it's happening.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's not a protest. They're all.
It's a bit laissez-faire, isn't it?
They're all Guardian readers, so they don't want to go up there unless it's starting.
Yes, got to take advantage of the action. Otherwise, they could be.
Can't get their boots too dirty.
No, that's right. They've got all that champagne socialism to get through. Brilliant, lovely to talk to you, Sean. Thank you very much for ringing.
See you next week.
Yeah, take care. Have a good
Bye.
Weekend. There we are, Sean James Cameron from the Allotment Channel. Check him out. He's got a new camera, ladies and gentlemen, new point-and-shoot camera, all very singing and dancing. Lots of thumbs up going over there, which is very nice. Poor Richard was probably feeling like he had already seen everything in Worthing. Yes, I thought I had, although there is that, you could still dig up more history, but it depends how entertaining it would be. Anyway, that's it for today. I think I've covered everything. We'll see you again on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. Look after yourselves. Big thank you to our people who rang in, to Susan Ballinger for ringing in about the book. Don't forget you can get this wonderful book, Tales from Tombstones, from Amazon. To Sean, who's just rung in, to Ed, who rang in earlier, and Lance, first-time caller. Lovely to hear from you. To our contributors on the videos, Days of Yours, thank you very much for the I Spy. That was great. Wilf, with his interesting look at the tree trunks and how they had gone. To Richard McGowan, up there with the candlestick. Fascinating story, that. And, of course, to Adrian from Turbo Stream. That's very, very kind of you to show us the 4 stones. I'd like to visit that myself at some point, as I say. And, of course, to you guys doing all the typing and the chatting and giving me the thumbs up. Thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. Don't forget you can follow, like and subscribe. And if you feel so inclined to become a patron and support what we do, a few pennies a month would be really helpful. To Julia and to Judith for doing the moderation and anything other that I can thank people for, then thank you. Have a good weekend, and I will be back on Monday. There will be another video on Saturday, however. Julia and I follow in the wonderful Josephine Suter's footsteps on the Mystery Road. That's for tomorrow. Till then, bye-bye. Oh, it presses the button all very impressively, and nothing sodding well happens. Let me try that again. What was going on here? Get out of it. That's better. Until next time, I'll do this properly. Until next time, have a good weekend. Bye-bye.